This is Artists at Work, and I'm your host, Andrew Pa. With me today is Jarrod Hartzler from Tuesday Musical Association, where he's the Executive and Artistic Director. Welcome, Jarrod. It's so nice to have you here today.
Thank you, Andrew. It's great to be here.
So I'm really excited, as I usually am with my guests, because I've worked with Tuesday Musical pretty frequently for about almost 3 years now. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know the organization as it's continued to grow. Could you just give a brief overview of what Tuesday Musical is and what they do?
Sure. Tuesday Musical is one of America's, certainly Ohio's, oldest and greatest classical music presenting series. So we were formed in 1887, so we're just about into our 131st season. As a ladies' music club, 13 prominent women from Akron decided that they wanted to share music with each other. Originally it was a club where they auditioned for each other. Somewhere about the 10th year they thought they should give back to the community, and they founded a recital series. And since then, we have been going strong with concerts each year at E.J. Thomas Hall. In the past 5 to 7 years, we've really also not only gone beyond those great concerts in the recital hall, but I think we'll talk more later about some of the great education work and things we do to take music all over Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, you know, to see an organization exist for this long, and it's survived multiple changes in economic conditions, and it's been a really resilient organization for that whole time. So as you know, Tuesday Musical developed, just to also mention, I mean, it was when you say prominent, you mean very prominent. It was.
So one of the main supporters for a long time was Gertrude Seiberling, Frank Seiberling's wife, founder of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. So Stan Hewitt Hall in Akron was often a place of many of our events, and most of the women of the initial membership were of that stature. So at that time, what smart, young, wealthy women were supposed to do was go to college, learn about music and the arts, and then marry husbands and lead big, beautiful houses like Stan Hewitt. And so we had a number of those in Akron. We had the Schumacher family of Quaker Oats. There's a great story about that. When you talk about venerability, there was a point somewhere in the teens, I believe, where we were financially challenged. And there's this great Akron Beacon Journal article where she said, "What was too good to fail, so I'll give them $5,000. Well, $5,000 at that time was like, $1 million now. So.
Yeah.
So that's part of that 130-year, venerability has been just having the right opportunities at the right time with people that have supported us when it made sense.
Yeah, and that club aspect kind of continues today.
We do still continue with the club. It's a membership, so the evolution of the club was it was all women. They had to audition for each other before they could be admitted, and the auditions were tough. I mean, I've heard people talk about their auditions even in like the 60s and 70s, and it was worse than college graduate exams and things. But then the audition portion was removed somewhere in the 80s, and then in the 90s we even became progressive enough that now men are members of Tuesday Musical. So it has a great history. The two organizations I found older than us, as I've researched, and maybe this will help people find others, but I know the Metropolitan Opera is older than we are in New York City, and in St. Paul, Minnesota, there's an organization called the Schubert Club, which was formed the same way.
Yeah.
And so the Schubert Club is 4 years older than we are, but it's pretty great to, as we work to secure artists and things. Of course, all the agents know us because everyone's played. Vladimir Horowitz played on our series, all the great opera singers. So you just look, and we've always had the knack of catching some of those people when they were just young and they came to Akron, Ohio.
Yeah, well, and something I remember, I did. My relationship started with you because I had to do a research project and do an evaluation of an organization for my arts admin degree.
Right.
And in my research, even in like the 30s, 40s, there was some of the golden age of violinists. Almost all of them came to Akron at that point. Heifetz, I believe Stern.
Sure.
A lot of those really just
multiple
fantastic.
times.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
And that's just such. I'm from South Dakota, so seeing and having artists of that caliber coming through Akron for 130 years, because now we bring it up to today, and we can talk a little bit about this last season, which was the 130th anniversary, which you brought in some incredible artist again for this season. And you kicked it off with a Prelude celebration. Can you tell us a little bit
Sure.
about
So the
how that
Prelude
was?
celebration was our 130th anniversary celebration. And one of the things we really wanted to do with that concert as we kicked off the year was really feature artists from programs and projects and partnerships that we have. So, of course, we still often have, the Academy of St. Martin in the Field and Joshua Bell and things like that, which are huge showstoppers, but we really wanted to celebrate all that we do. So we have the Escher Quartet, who serve as our quartet in residence. An Akron composer, James Wielding, wrote a new quartet that premiered that night to celebrate it. We have a 60-plus-year-old scholarship program for college students studying music performance or music education. So we had the most recent winner of that contest, who is a soprano, perform. We had worked with the Cleveland International Piano Competition with the Eschers serving for their chamber music rounds. So they played a piano quartet with Nikita Mondoyans, the most recent winner of that competition. So it really, not just, showing not only the great things we can bring from the world, to Northeast Ohio, but also the great things that Northeastern Ohio is creating and sharing with the world. So, it's kind of it's a two-way street that we're helping foster and grow young talent here, as well as, bringing in the greats.
Yeah, which is absolutely fantastic, and that's something that I really admire about the organization, is that it, has a very much a national and international, group of people coming in, but it also really helps support and foster the talent we have here, which is, some organizations don't really do that, and it's really nice to see. And I know that gets a lot of support from like the Ohio Arts Council and other foundations in the area, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And one thing we didn't really cover, but you're the executive and artistic director. So what does that exactly mean you do for the organization?
It's a wonderful position, because in arts organizations, there are often two people, right? There's the executive director who, is charged with making sure there's money and the lights are paid and the contracts are signed. And then the artistic person gets to go off and meet the artists and plan what the feel of a season or what a who's presented, things like that. I get to do both, which is a lot of fun, and it's also, there's a nice reconciliation there. I can say, oh, I want to do this concert. It costs $80,000. Oh, I have to raise $80,000. The connection, or the way it works in a lot of bigger organizations, is that the person will have the dream of the great season, and then someone will have to go, have to really struggle to make it happen. So I get to do both. So it certainly helps me think more creatively about what we're doing, and I certainly, I have the relationship with the funders, so I know when something great comes up, who I can probably go to and either get the support for just the artistic performance or the education work that'll come with it. One of the other things we do in this process is make sure, with almost every one of our main stage artists that come in, that they do something in the community. So if it's someone is famous and strapped for time as Joshua Bell, that might just be it's a pre-concert interview or something where there's an opportunity, or an open rehearsal where students can come and hear the Academy and ask questions and things like that. Or if it's a smaller group that we know well, like the Imani Wind Quintet, I made them come for 4 days. So for 3 days we schlepped from school to university to community performance. So by the time they got to play the concert, they were like, "Can we just leave?" That wasn't the case, but I mean, certainly they work hard, and so we this year, our number is a little over 5,000 people, students, people of all ages, that we've performed for, worked with, outside of the concert hall walls.
Yeah, which is really incredible. And we're actually going to now listen to the Escher Quartet, which is the quartet in residence, and they come back multiple times a year for that educational work. So please enjoy this brief video of the Escher String Quartet performing the Quartet Satz by Franz Schubert. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that recording of the Escher String Quartet. The Escher String Quartet has, was its second year of being an ensemble or the quartet in residence. So it's shared a really important place with Tuesday Musical the last 2 years, and it's done a lot of educational work. And also another series that we haven't even gotten to talk about was the decompression chamber. There we go. Took me a second to arrive there. But when they come, how many days do they usually spend here?
Sure.
And, just kind of some of the details of what they really do when they come.
Well, we're really fortunate to have the Eschers. They're a good, first off, an amazing string quartet, first and foremost, and secondly, fun people in their game, up for anything that I do. At this point, I often give them the itinerary as they land at the airport, and they say, where are we going? I'm like, oh, get ready, and I'll shove all four of them in my SUV, and we'll drive to Marietta or Cleveland or who knows where. But so they come, so we've just finished the second year of 2 years, and we're renewing it for 2 more at least, of their residency. So they spend 4 visits in Akron, each of which is usually about 3 days of work. They usually come in on a Sunday night and leave sometime on Wednesday. There have been some main, consistencies throughout each visit, which is they always work with all of the University of Akron string students. We've had funding from the Myers Lecture Fund there to support that. And then, which, it's been great for the string students is, getting those great high quality private lessons, as well as it helps the string department, the school work with recruiting, saying, to new students, you'll be able to work with the Escher Quartet each of your, probably 4 years at this point. And then we really, work with any project, any educator that comes to me with, a great idea. I have a friend who's a young choir director at Midview Local Schools in Grafton, and originally 2 years ago, I just threw out the idea, hey, I know you're the choir director, but do you want to work with the orchestra, and I'll have the Eschers come to Midview. They'll work with the students, they can, play a little bit of a public performance or a full school performance. And his immediate response was, well, gosh, that's great, but could they work with my choir? And I sort of laughed and said, well, I suppose. Do you know literature? And he said, oh, I have 3 pieces immediately. So, so for 2 years in a row now, we've worked with these choral students. There'll be an afternoon or morning rehearsal, and then it's their big public spring or fall choir concert. So you've got 500 parents coming for their junior high and high school choir students. This particular year, there were 3 pieces where the Escher accompanied the choir, but we also take 10 or 15 minutes so that they play a few movements of a string quartet. So that we're serving both missions. Not only are the students getting to work with amazing musicians, but the amazing musicians are getting to share their craft and what we do at Tuesday Musical with a diverse audience. With the Arts Council, I had a residency with them where we took them to Holmes County for 3 days, where we played for about 2,300 people. 1,900 of which were students, most of which were coming out of little rural Amish schools. We went from school to school. I mean, totally the traveling band. It was the 4 musicians, the 4 music stands, instruments and me in and out of each school, and then a public performance in a big gymnasium with a choir shell set up behind them. So that's what was one of the great things about them in this residency, is that I think a lot of musicians would be cautious about those sorts of performances and wondering if is it perfect for their career. These guys know what's good for their career. They know that we're doing great work, and they're proud of it now as well. So we're they look forward to their visits here. So 4 times this year, again, they'll come, one of which will still be a main stage concert. So we have them play something each year and do a major project. So this year's major project for them will be the world premiere of a string quartet written by Andrew Norman. So it'll premiere here next March, and then it'll go to little places like the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center in New York and Wigmore Hall in London and the Aspen Music Festival. So it's a perfect example of where something's happening here first. Akron's played its role in the music world
and that's just so incredible to see where this series of concerts that maybe some people don't know as well does host these great events, and it grows from there, which is just absolutely fantastic to see. And that's happened a couple of times, even in the last couple of years. So when you planned this upcoming season, right on the heels of your 130th anniversary, so you're entering the 131st anniversary. When you go through and plan a season, how do you actually select the artists that you want to bring in? Is it, I know sometimes you might go see some of them in New York or Washington, D.C., or over in, or Aspen, as well. So when you're actually going through, what's your process?
So I work with a committee of people that are, knowledgeable. So I have music educators, I have, professional musicians. But first and foremost, I rarely present something that someone hasn't heard. That's really important. But I sort of what I call a 3-tenet process for who we present to start with. So we want to make sure that everything we present is, of course, artistically excellent. So the best musicians, young, emerging, famous, whatever, the best of the best. We want to make sure what we're doing is artistically significant. So that is, again, working with the premiere, bringing a project the artists want to work with forward. So it's not just someone from a talent agency like Opus 3 or IMG calling me and saying, hey, we've got this group and they're passing by and you should book them. Well, if it's the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields and they're passing by, I'll probably say yes. But, otherwise, I want to make sure we're playing our role in the music world, helping artists create music that they want to create. And then, the third is that I want to work with musicians that are committed to supporting us as well. So that's being willing to do the education work, the pre-concert interview, things like that, really engaging while they're here. From there, we have a blend. We present everything from the solo piano recital to the full orchestra. So each season we try to round that out. So we have an endowed piano concert named after Margaret Baxtresser, who was a great famous pianist who lived in Akron, who was a big part of everything musical in Akron for a long, long time.
Yes.
So each year, it's been Yuja Wang has played on that series. Jonathan Biss. This year, Joyce Yang is a really fantastic emerging pianist. I heard her in Aspen. She's playing concertos with all the world's great orchestras, and so she'll be here and she'll do her day of education work beforehand. Again, the Escher project is ongoing. We have an orchestra coming, which is a period orchestra from Canada, La Violin du Bois.
Which I actually hadn't heard of them before, but I'm really curious to hear them.
Yeah, well, they're going to be great. Of course, it's it's Baroque music, but they're coming with a countertenor.
Yeah.
So, and it's certainly not necessarily. I mean, I love to present things that I don't necessarily know as well, right? So I listen to it, and it's wonderful. And the opportunity to have the vocalist makes it a really special concert. We have
Yeah.
Lawrence Brownlee coming back,
Yes.
who's the great Met Opera tenor. He's from Youngstown. He's been on our series 2 different times, and he's coming with Eric Owens, who's the bass baritone also from the Met Opera. The 2 of them are doing a duo recital that they had done 2 years ago for the Lyric Opera and enjoyed it so much that they thought we should refine this and share it with some other people. So that'll be great. We have a great partnership with the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center.
Yes.
Their artistic directors, Wuhan and David Finkel, are longtime colleagues of mine. So, and their mission at Chamber Music Society is to, take the next generation of young stars. So it's sort of like what we do on a little scale. On like they have all of the world, and
Yeah.
New York City is their base. So. Wuhan will come again with a program bringing 4 other CMS musicians. So in that we get to hear young musicians who will be in the next great string quartet or the next great soloist or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so that partnership is ongoing. And of course they do 3 or 4 days of education work when they come.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so fantastic to see the variety. And plus, we didn't even get a chance to mention, but there's also the Fuse series,
Fuse
which
series.
brings in, something a little bit different that might be a different flavor for people to come and attend. So we're, almost out of time here. Where can people find more information about the season online,
Sure.
by phone?
So our website is easy. It's tuesdaymusical.org. It's brand new and launching in the next, I think, 3 days.
Oh,
So
nice.
that'll be great with all of next season's information. We're on social media on Twitter and Facebook, and you know that because you help
Yeah.
fuel those things.
And those are at both Tuesday Musical Akron. If you search for both of those, you should be able to find it.
Right. And then, we still do the brick and mortar brochure, which is on its way as well, and it'll be in everyone's New York Times Sunday section at the beginning of August if you're looking for that. So, but visit the website. It's full of information. All of our programs are there. We didn't even talk about some of our, we have a junior music club and the scholarship program again, where we have students that have won, like Jinju Cho, whose Encore Chamber Music Festival is taking place in Cleveland right now. So it's just such a breadth of resources and opportunities for people of all ages to experience great music.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Until next time, everyone.